senior lecturer with Department of International Relations and Diplomacy, Bayelsa University as well in Abuja. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Right, I'll begin with you, Honorable Gloria. What has been the feeler you've been getting from these two states?
Well, pockets of information coming in since the day begun. I believe that voting has been going on in both places. We hear that we have some good and bad tales as usual from the field, from Lokoja and Bayelsa. So most of the polling units, we are made to understand that voting is rounding off. I think the critical thing during an election is once the votes start leaving the polling units for the collation center. That's when basic activities begin to happen. So within the next couple of hours, these are the times to watch. The period to watch is when the votes leave the polling units, they head for the collation center, and then the monitoring process as the count and the recording begins. So I think the game has actually just begun.
All right, the game has just begun, according to Honorable Gloria. Now, Dr. Omale, we've gone past the stage of accreditation, voting, and in some parts of Bayelsa State, collation of results are started. We expect that process will begin in Kogi State very soon. So, what has been your assessment of this process so far?
Thank you very much. I think so far so good. We could say that the process has been very, very, very fluent. It has been going on very well. Though there are isolated cases from the reports that we are getting of violence in few areas. But I think so far a lot of progress has been made, and just like she has said, we are waiting for the collation to be properly done, and then we'll eventually know whether the results will come out or not.
Right, you mean you cannot say yet that the process has been fair and credible?
Well, you know, it's too early for one to
conclude.
So far, with the reports that we have seen, voting has been concluded in most of the polling units, both on the reports that are filtering in, and collation has commenced. But like she rightly pointed out, is that the process, you know, most of the violence that we recorded from history is the movement from polling units to the ward collation centers, from the ward collation center to the local government collation center, and then eventually to the state collation center. So it is in between those areas that at times you hear reports of thugs snatching electoral materials, and then you hear mutilation of results. We don't pray that we'll get to hear of all those. So far, that's why I say so far, so good. At least votes have been casted, and collation is ongoing.
All right, collation is ongoing, and like Ifeanyi Okafor and his guest just showed us from that part of the country, they had cases, reports of ballot box snatching as well as gunshots around town. Well, two of you have something in common. You're both politicians, but I don't know whether you still play the game.
Yes, I
By the way, Dr. Omale has to be a chairman, a former chairman of Badibo local government area of Benue State. Now, you had experience in this. Why are politicians taking elections as do or die?
I think fundamentally, of course, you know our situation in Africa. Somebody I was just listening to, somebody is talking about desperation. Anything you do in life, once you begin to be desperate, you want to get power at all costs, then of course the tendency to resort to violence is very, very high. But if you see it as a process where you are going to give service, there's no need to get desperate and to want to take power at all costs. I think we should begin to enlighten our people that governance is all about service, giving selfless service. So there is no need for us to become so desperate to the level that we keep on arming young men, we keep on arming thugs to continue to disrupt the electoral process. Democracy is a very beautiful innovation. It's a very beautiful process of leadership development, of leadership, of bringing up good governance and good leadership. And when we begin to get desperate, and then we begin to create anti-democratic issues like snatching of ballot box that you mentioned, like mutilation of election results, then desperation sets in. And it's because people believe that when you get to power, it's the shortest cut to what they call success. And that is why they get so desperate. But I think we begin to tell our people. We should begin to tell our people, not because of Bayelsa and Kogi alone. Yeah, we should be able to educate our people. We should be able to enlighten our people, even from kindergarten level. People should see politics as service, not necessarily because if you want to acquire power and then lord it over everybody. And that is why we need to do a lot of our political culture to be retooled. You know, some people do not even see violence as a problem. They will tell you that
it's part of the game. It's
part of the game, yes. Some people do not see rigging. I was discussing with some people the other day, and somebody said, well, by any way necessary, that you can get to power through any means. And it's very unfortunate when you get young people thinking in that direction. Why can't we debate issues, articulate issues as a people, and then elect people who will go to government and work for us and give us what we need? And these are the basic things why democracy continues to still be the best form of government anywhere in the world. And democracy is so beautiful because it is the people's choice that matter. If every vote counts, you can imagine if 200 million Nigerians line up and those of voting age, and they vote, and a good president or a good governor or a good senator is put into office, and he performs very well, in the next 4 years or in the next round of election, people will troop out and still line up and vote credible people. We should not always think that vote buying, we should not always think that violence, we should not always think that we should change the process so that we can all be winners in an election.
At all time.
No.
I thank you so much, Dr. Omale. Now, Honorable Gloria, you had your experience as well. What was it like? Was it a do or die affair? And were you actually intimidated out of the race?
Well, before I go into my experience, I think I'd like to flip the conversation from psychologically thinking that the desperation is all about the politician. Because except in very few cases, on election day, you only see the politician go out to cast that his or her one vote. So it's still all about citizen participation. The people who are mobilized to do violence are still citizens. And there's something we call citizen mandate.
Yes.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Now, hurry together.
There's something we call citizens mandate protection and citizens participation. For so long as citizens keep having voter apathy or fear of, or the feeling that the system is the way it is, it cannot be changed, it cannot be improved, it's only those who are open to hijack that will be out there hijacking the process. And so I always want to make it clear that yes, politicians can mobilize, but at the same time, if the citizens mobilize themselves and say, this is my country, and they know the level, it's a lot at stake, and that is why there's the desperation. Governance is everything. You can talk from now till tomorrow about making changes, but somebody who is in a seat and has the authority with one pen can change a policy overnight that can change everything in the market, that can change everything in the schools, that can change your healthcare system, that can make so much difference. So there is indeed a lot at stake. And so while the politicians are desperate, I believe the citizens are meant to be more desperate.
All right.
We need that desperation from the citizens, not relaxing and feeling that this is the system, I just have to key in. Because I keep emphasizing, those who are out there shooting the guns and perpetrating violence are not those who are physically involved in that election, are not those who have the highest stakes. It is those who don't have the high stakes. So what's the problem? If you make yourself available to be used, if you don't understand what is at stake, then you make yourself to be available to be used for the wrong reasons. And so we should concentrate our efforts on the fact that most times people are just relaxed, like this is the system. A lot of reform has come into our system. Unlike when we had just practically like between 2 to 5 parties, this time around we had so many parties and so many people could key in. And you found a lot of drama in the political space, especially during the general elections. Every privilege given to Nigerians to say, let us key into the elections and everybody participate, you find that everybody is just jostling to be part of the system, to be part of that one system that we all say is corrupted, but we just want to align. So who do you blame? Let's stop playing the blame game for politicians. Let us look at ourselves as citizens in Nigeria.
All right. I don't want to believe that you're making case for your constituency, but coming to you, Dr. Omale, now, Honorable Gloria just said that it's a two-way thing, that the electorate too have a role to play here. But we're talking about a situation whereby we have some youth who have nothing to do. And then on the other hand, we have the politicians who have money to spray. And then begins who pays the piper, dictates the tune. How about it?
Well, just like she has said, in terms of participation, I agree that a lot needs to be done to encourage Nigerians to participate in the electoral process. But again, that is where the much needed reforms. I would have been very happy if the president had signed the last amended electoral act before the 2019 elections. I believe it's going to be signed. You see, the issue at stake is that there are we still need to improve our electoral system. We still need a lot of improvement. For example, the process of registration, to me, is still cumbersome. And that is why we are talking about apathy. Whereby somebody has to move from his ward to go to the local government headquarters before he can be able to get his or her PVC. Or if you are transferred from Abuja and you registered in Abuja and now you want to vote in your village, somebody will tell you that you have to the processes that you have to undergo to be able to vote in your new place of abode. All these things need to be properly tidied up. And you discover that many people who are not participating, it's not as if they don't want to participate, but they don't have even access to even this PVC itself. Now, in the last couple of years, some people have attained the age of 18. Every year, every month, people are getting to the age. I would have loved a situation whereby even from your phone, you could easily get registered. Yes, you could even catch your vote. Let me tell you an experience. In Bayelsa University, I headed the electoral student union electoral body, electoral panel to help the students to be democratize. And you couldn't believe it that people were voting from their phone. And then when they vote, the results are tallied almost immediately. And within some hours, we get to know who the results. Because as you are voting, it's computerized. It's showing. So until our electoral process gets to this level, so that you don't even need to go to the polling unit or somebody will come and snatch you or snatch ballot box. But we are evolving. What I want to see, the type of reforms I want to see going forward are reforms that technology has to be used in our election. Until when technology are used, you discover that the issue of participation will improve. When people know that even if people cannot vote from their phone, you make the voting process so easy and seamless, and then people will just come to the polling booth, even if it's buttons that people press and the results indicated automatically. But you see, all these are manual things. That is where problem comes in. And you take for example from the issue of salary payment now. We are not having issues again. IPPS, everybody knows. Even issue of ghost workers are reduced. So also, post-election riggers we reduce. When we begin to know, honestly, we are in a world of information technology. Most of these things we are doing, we deliberately know that some of these things cannot work again in the 21st century. But we are not moving with the rest of the world. People are talking, why can't we adopt these e-voting techniques? But it's for another day. You know, now what we have on ground is still, even the card reader has improved our electoral process.
All right, okay, we've not had any case of malfunctioning of the card readers yet. We still hope to get reports as to the effectiveness of those things. You're still with us on the Nigerian Television Authority, and I have my guest in this Abuja studio, Honorable Gloria Okolubo, a public affairs analyst, and as well Dr. Adoyi Omale in the studio. Now, we had case of gun shooting and ballot box snatching, like we have been talking about. Now, taking that these are just 2 states out of the 36 that we have in the country, and they're just off-cycle elections. Did you expect that this situation will be too much for the security personnel to handle?
Well, it's not too much for them to handle, but you see, these 2 elections, the whole Nigeria is involved.
Very well.
Because isolated elections like this are very difficult to manage because everybody's attention. You can imagine, even in the rallies, governors are moving from their states to go and give a helping hand. Governors of APC are going, governors of PDP are going.
Okay, they're not busy in their own state, that's what you're saying.
Yes, everybody is going. Even I see a lot of people traveling. Where are you going? They say we are going to Kogi or we are going to Bayelsa. To go and do what they say, we are going to support our friends or we are going to support somebody that is contesting the election. So a lot of attention is in those 2 places. And because people are not busy in the other states, you get this type of scenario. And a lot of people, one of my friends called me this morning and said, if you go to Lokoja and Yenogua, those hotels are fully booked. This is an election that is supposed to be for Bayelsans, and an election that is supposed to be for people from Kogi State. But everybody is moving in because it is not happening in other places. So this staggered election thing, I think we need to also look at it critically. It's because based on court decisions and other things, that's why they are not happening simultaneously as it used to happen. But I think the violence mainly is being encouraged by even outside forces that are putting their hand in these elections in those places. Okay. Because, of course, the 2 key parties, both PDP and APC, they are everybody wants to prove a point with this election. Yaya Bello is an incumbent. The PDP wants to take it away. On the other side, Bayelsa, the PDP is in control of Bayelsa, and APC wants to take it away. So the 2 parties are desperate to get both Kogi and Bayelsa. Of course, 2023 election is coming up, and any party that becomes victorious in these 2 states will seem to have some milestone, some edge going forward to 2023.
All right, thanks a lot, Dr. Malena. Honorable Gloria, staggered election, off-cycle elections, are they supposed to be to an advantage?
I see them as advantageous, although the history is not very palatable because we have them because it's the courts that seem to be giving us our rulers, which is wrong. We're supposed to go to the ballots and get our leadership. Yeah. But because there's so much litigation. There's so many issues, and then that was because before the laws were changed to ensure that there's a time period within which election litigation can go on, so we have this staggered. But why I see it as an advantage is basically because of where I come from. I come from Delta State. I come from the South. There's no more volatile area when it comes to elections than where I come from. And this issue of ballot box snatching, there's expertise with it. I mean, there's expertise with it. Other states are learning from my region when it comes to that.
Ballot box.
So you can't, especially an election where everybody is looking, we're watching closely. There's no way you can ever say it will overwhelm the security officials, because the entire country is watching Bayelsa and Kogi right now. And so I think that it's a good place that we are in compared to where we are coming from. Because where we are coming from and where I am as a state, I mean, you know why I said at the beginning that the elections are just beginning?
Yeah.
The painful part is they will wait for the entire process to go through, and people have painstakingly cast their votes at much risk. And then at the end of the day, that's historically, I'm talking about what we have had for the past 16 years. Historically, as people are leaving the polling centers, people will shoot sporadically.
Another game begins.
Oh, they will shoot sporadically. There were times when we had to go to the riverside to go and be retrieving our votes from the rivers, and then that is even when voting takes place in some of the riverine areas. There's practically no voting. We just have footages where you see people just sitting and eating and then thumb printing. So if it's those who are not familiar with what has happened in our history electorally that shout so much. I'm really after progressive improvements in the system. And by the grace of God, we'll get there when we all determine that the stakes are high and we must ensure that we protect our stake in this, So the issue of ballot box snatching and everything, it is this window between when we have finished the elections and they are living in the what we do to encourage citizen participation is we say, look, after you have finished voting, escort your ballot box to the collation center. Make sure you have enough political agents, political party agents, enough observers, independent observers, both foreign and local, to make sure that these boxes are escorted until they start entering them. But trust, I just don't want to be partisan, but you see, there are no ways. There's so many ways that people subvert the system. There's so much reform that is being done, but people find ways to subvert the system. For instance, you find that a lot of states that have had hijack of their local INECs, there's some realities that we know about those of us that are on the field for elections. The local INECs at the state level are sometimes hijacked, such that even the polling agents that are rightfully yours as a party are converted to other parties. And so when polling agents are not available to monitor the results of their party candidates, the election is as well over even before it begins. And let's be careful about those who point hands, because most times when you're pointing one hand at the center, three are pointing back at you, and one is saying God is bearing witness. A lot of reforms are happening in Nigeria, and I'm very happy about it, and we need to make progress, and we will continue to make progress, because where we are coming from is a whole lot of decay. There's nobody in the South that will not bear me witness.
All right, it's good to know from you that it's getting better in that part of the country, talking about...
I'm not saying that it's getting better in my state. I'm saying in the country.
The process is getting better.
No, you talked about my experiences. That's another ballgame, because my experiences in Delta were bitter.
Bitter.
Yes.
Right. That was exactly what I asked you the other time.
Yes.
We're coming to it. Bayelsans are just your neighbors, by the way.
Yes.
Between you, Deltans, and then River State. You have similar terrain.
Yes.
What do you think should be the way out? How do we resolve this? knowing fully well that this is a riverine area of
Yes.
the country, and it's not everyone who is used to that kind of condition. How do we find a way around this?
Finding a way around it is, we are lucky this time around that it's just 2 states and it's easily to police, monitor and secure votes. I think a lot is going on, and the riverine areas where there's difficulty in the terrain and, usually people do not have as much access. Fortunately for us now, people are beginning to have more access. You have a lot of independent observers who go there and they come out with a lot of footages. So as the day goes on, let us monitor those reports as they are coming in. That's why I said I'm not saying things are getting better from the blue. I'm saying things are getting better based on the field reports that we get.
Okay, I will come to you. Let me pause you there. I'm going to Dr. Omole now. What you're looking from outside, but a politician who has an experience in this field, what do you think should be the way out resolving this crisis in the riverine area?
Yes, I have been opportune to travel. I've been opportune to travel from Yenogua to Brass, and you can't believe the distance. I was on water. In fact, at a point, I started shouting that they should take me to land because you see big water. So you can imagine. She talked about people following electoral materials. The type of boat that you will take from Yenogua to Brass, the distance, you will be on water for 4 or 5 hours. On speedboat to go to some terrain in Bayelsa. Now, after election, you can imagine from Brass down to Yenogua with result sheets. Anything can happen in between. So that is the situation. But if you are transmitting election results electronically, there will be no need for any speedboat to transfer result sheets. There will be no need for any tug to relay results on the road. Do you understand? So if we begin to do electronic transfer of results, we have solved a lot of problems. But like she said, would our politicians like that? Because everybody benefits, almost all politicians benefit from this manual transmission of results. Because that is where the problem with our electoral system arises. This movement carrying paper from one place to another, shifting ballot papers from one place to another. That is where the confusion sets in. So on the question you asked about how can, because of the terrain, and enough logistics have to be provided. Now, I have had instances where it is those contesting in the past. It is those contesting that with data vehicle that we even go and carry INEC officials from the INEC office. Madam, have you not had that experience? They will tell you that even during registration, they will tell you that communities have to pay so that they can move the machine to go and register people. They tell you that there's no generator, fuel in the generator. Communities have to pay some money for fuel to be put in the generator so that it can capture people. So those are the logistic issues that we get to see in the field. And it's very unfortunate. I know that government has made provision for those logistic items. But you will be shocked that even vehicle to convey INEC officials from polling booths to maybe the local government collation center, sometimes it is the candidates that provides those logistics. And of course, when you provide that, you know what can happen because you don't know who the driver is, who the vehicle, the man that is the vehicle you are going to enter. You don't know the people that are going to be inside, and then you can enter a vehicle, and then on the way something happens. So in terms of logistics, those issues have to be looked at critically. Yes, terrains are bad, but if there are enough provision for logistics, those challenges can be overcome.
Okay, let's look at how we got here, how we got to the stage whereby we have 2 states off cycle of a general election. Now, these 2 states far apart, one in the southern part and then one north central, they have something in common, and that's the inconclusiveness of the election, the previous ones. Do you see that experience repeating again?
Well, you know, the major definition of politics that we all know, elementary definition, is that politics is struggle for power. You know, and if politics is struggle for power, and also politics are allocating authoritative allocation of values, if those are definition of politics, well, I don't think it is going to happen again. But politicians are at it again. With the important cases of gunshot and all this, that you show that people are beginning to become more desperate. And I don't pray it happens that way. I pray that this election, in the first ballot, there should be a winner, and then we move ahead. You see, we keep on dragging issues of election. Elections are not supposed to be issues, and after this now, they will go to court, litigations from the tribunal to the appeal court to Supreme Court, and back again. And like she said, our judicial system is not helping. Is not helping our democracy to grow, because every minor issue is taken to court. Everybody believes that, oh, even if you lose in the election, there's still a window by the time you go to the tribunal or you go to court, and then you see SARS cashing in, bringing all kinds of motions, and then before you know, so from one election to another, some cases even drag, if they have not pegged election adjudication to 180 days. Some will even drag, in the past, it will drag for almost 2 years into a tenure. And then you discover that we are wasting a lot of precious time. I think what we should be thinking to enrich our democracy in Nigeria is that we should lay more emphasis on winning at all costs. We should make politics so unattractive that people should not see it as the only means of survival. If you go to the rural area, you ask young men, what are you doing? They say, I'm a politician. So you discover that people are taking this politics to a level that it has now become what some people do for a living. Absolutely what they do for a living. And it doesn't help our political development. People should see politics, I'm still insisting that people should see politics as service, not as something that they want to live their life on. They should see that, look, you are coming in, you put yourself to come and serve the people. You are not there to amass wealth. You are not there because you want to enhance your social or personal well-being. You are there because you want to give something to society. Once we begin to see that, and that is why I join a lot of people to advocate remuneration of political office holders should be brought down to the minimum level, so that if a governor, for example, you peg his salary for, let's say, 400,000 in a month, you see, many people will not be interested to go and buy for.
Of course, we have some candidates who are richer than the state.
Yes.
And they want it to go on. Now, let's talk about this interest in these elections in two states. We have national interest and, of course, international interest.
Yes.
But everyone really should be interested in peaceful, credible, fair elections in these two states, because they are brothers and sisters living there, right? Now, let's take Kogi for example. In a case whereby we have 24 parties, 24 candidates contesting this governorship election, and then only 17 signed a peace accord, is that an indication to what to expect?
Well, signing peace accord, yes, somebody can sign up to a peace accord and still go to the field and do whatever he wants to do, perpetrate whatever violence he needs to perpetrate. I think the most important thing is that let the process be free and fair. If the process is free and fair, I don't think there will be violence. Let the security agencies live up to their responsibility by ensuring that the balloting processes are protected and enough security is provided. Voters are shielded from harassment by miscreants. Once that is done, I think everything will go on peacefully. Yes, the parties that didn't sign, I don't know the reasons why they will not sign they will not append their signature for. Everybody should pray for peace and should work towards peace. I don't know why the reason why they refuse.
Now, Honorable Gloria, signing peace accord, does it really have any role to play? Because we've had cases in this same country that after the elections, the candidates must have signed a peace accord. Afterwards, all sorts of things continue, and we have cases of violence being instigated allegedly by politicians. Do we have any significant role of the peace accord?
Practically on the field, most people probably they don't even realize the significance of the peace accord because they just append their signature to it, you know, in form as a ceremony. When I was contesting, I think I delegated my deputy to go sign the peace accord on my behalf, and that was because of security reasons within Delta State for me as a woman. But the peace accord, when you sign a peace accord, you append your signature to adhering to certain terms, you know, that are important to the peaceful conduct of these elections and the continuity and the superseding fact of, you know, the fact that the peace and interests of the state supersedes whatever ambition that you think you have.
Okay,
there's so many
Gloria,
implications to those clauses.
Peace accord, the significance of peace accord. Trust me, we'll continue with that. But we're having a situation report from Kogi State now. That's a collation started in some part of that, and particularly Dekina local government area. Charles Alpha is standing by to give us a situation report from that area.
Now, studio, the whole process here is almost done. We are on the last item on the menu, which is collation, you know, from the ward here in Boyaga, unit 001. The hall you see behind me, it's where the collation is going, the sorting and collation of ballot papers is going through. And so we have here an electorate also who took part in the whole process, and he wants to tell us how he feels about the process.
My name is a lot of excitement here and there because we just finished casting our vote and the sorting has started. So before the collation, so far so good. Everything has been smooth. Since morning, it has been peaceful. But one of the factors is that one of the gubernatorial candidate comes from this place. So the crowd has been impressive. A lot of people have been on queue since morning. And despite the sun, nobody bothers. They've been here until they finish. So, and we pray that as we are going into collations, they will soon finish and we'll take it to our local government. To God be the glory.
Okay. All right, now, so that summarizes everything that we have been saying since morning. As it is right now, this is the most vital aspect to them at the ward level. And from here, we say that's how it's been from Unit 001 and Unit 002. Unit 002 has actually done the sorting and collation, and results have been, you know, collated and taken to appropriate quarters.
Charles Alpha, thanks a lot for that update from Dekina local government area of Kogi State. That's local government so significant in this election because that's where the PDP candidates or the governorship candidates, Musa Wada is from, as well as the SDP governorship candidate, talking about Aisha. Okay, YPP candidates, Aisha Audu, that's where they're from. Now, we're having good feelings from this part that the collation has started. That's a good omen, right?
Yes, it is. It is. It's quite good.
I like that.
If by this time of the day, everywhere is calm, it's good. We have good feelers of what's going on out there.
Very well. Now, let's take you back to the role of peace accord that we were talking about. How significant should this be in an electoral process?
When you sign commitments, you know, when you sign commitments at this level, those commitments are binding to you as a person, and there's a sense of responsibility. When you have appended your signature to a commitment, you can be held accountable because you have endorsed that you're going to see to it, that you're going to conduct yourself in a certain manner, you're going to stand by the results of this. And so if, as a result of those particular elections for which you have endorsed your signature and said that you know this process, you're going to ensure that you conform to it. If you can directly be traced as being responsible for a breakdown of law and order, you're not only accountable to your local community, you're actually accountable to the international community. If your community knows what to do, you can be dragged based on the agreements that we have for stabilizing states, both at the AU level, both at the West ECOWAS level, and even at the United Nations level. I run an NGO that's a partner NGO to the United Nations. So there are articles that we have endorsed, that we have, there are several articles that we have signed as a people that, communities can draw on if they can come together and they are sure that there's this particular person who causes a breach in peace. So because you have agreed to this, it's justiciable. Those laws can now be justiciable to the people. But how many of us fight for those rights? How many of us know what to do? How many of us know that? Because you have. So we take this opportunity to know it, and we should also find out more from those who have more ideas about this, to know that it's not just a ceremony. There's a significance to it. You can hold those politicians accountable to their word, to their signature, to the agreements they have entered into. Agreements are not really for nothing. There's a significance to agreements, but we take them on the surface level. Practically speaking, we just sign them like ceremony and we go and do what we like.
Obviously, that's what it looks like now, ceremony. Dr. Omale,
yes, I need to comment.
But before you come in, let me add to it. Now, does this also speak of integrity of the people involved when you sign an agreement and then you cannot stand by it?
Yes, my take on that is that any act of violence should be treated with all the seriousness that it deserves. Whether there is a peace accord or not, elections are supposed to be violence free. Any case of violence must be properly investigated and the culprit must be brought to book. Why we take issue of electoral violence, why we treat it with levity in Nigeria is that, and that is why some of the thugs or some of those who perpetrate this violence, when they are arrested, they are released. They are not prosecuted in the law court. And that is why other people will be encouraged to continue perpetrating these violent acts. So whether a candidate signs a peace accord or not, the truth of the matter is that there is enough law, enough provisions in our law that is supposed to deal with cases of violence. Both the politicians, both the citizens, and the voters, and every other person. Anybody that is caught snatching ballot box, anybody that is caught disrupting the process must be arrested and dealt with in line with the laws of the land, irrespective of whether somebody signed peace accord or not. Yeah. Now, just like you have said, if for whatever reason you have signed a peace accord, now, if your supporter, let's say in a particular ward, become unruly and disrupt the elections in the ward, will you hold the candidate who signed the peace accord, will you hold him responsible for that? For the conduct of somebody, the way somebody has disrupted an election in a particular polling unit. You understand what I'm saying?
Very well.
Yes, so that's where the difference comes. But every case of violence should be investigated and the culprit should be dealt with. You cannot ascribe, it's only when the candidate himself is seen to have held meetings with his supporters and said, if you know that I'm not winning, you disrupt the process. That is the only way that you can now arrest the candidate. Say, oh, he mobilized his people to disrupt the process. So I think it's not good. Violence is not democratic, because what you do is that you use violence to intimidate voters. When you unleash violence on the voters, you scare them. Some people will not even come out to vote on that day, or like the sporadic gunshots that we have been hearing from the reports. Once somebody hear a gunshot, that's the end. The women will push all their children in, and everybody is scared away, which will not be good for our electoral process. So it's a major problem with our electoral system. How do we curb this issue of violence? The secrecy of ballots. In most polling units you go, everybody is putting eye. They want to see who is voting for. That's not democratic enough. Everybody is supposed to vote in secret so that you cannot be intimidated. And that is why we always, even vote buying becomes a norm, because people buy vote because
voting openly becomes a case of accountability in this case. We will continue on that note, Dr. Omale. Now we're having a report from Bayelsa State, particularly in Ward 6 and Unit 8 of Yenagua local government, where sorting of ballots are started.
As you can see, hold on first. No, let them hold on first. You can finish your own work. No, do your work. Let them wait. Madam, continue.
Yes, boy.
Yes.
DRP. NDC.
Wow. Wow.
Right, we apologize for that. We will get that back online for you to see the proceedings. At least it shows that sorting of ballots has started under a very peaceful atmosphere from what we can see from Bayelsa State. Is that what you expected, Dr. Omale, before we continue with the line of thought?
Yes, every Nigeria wants peace. I believe that majority of we Nigerians, we want peace. The only way democracy can grow, the only way democracy can take root is when there's atmosphere of peace. And that is why peace is very central. Free and fair elections are central to democracy. And the only way you can get free and fair election is to have a violence-free election, so that the will of the people will matter, will count. People will come out fearlessly and say, look, this is the person we want to lead us. But when people are intimidated and they are afraid, everybody stays back. Then the mediocre, anybody can win elections, can become victorious and say he has won an election. But from what I'm seeing, from the report that the correspondent just brought in from Bayelsa, it's encouraging. They are bringing the sheets out. Transparent. APC, PDP, they are bringing the count, and it's open. And you see the people gathered. Everybody is watching. It shows that the transparent activity that is going on in the polling unit. Well, this is just one out of the several polling units. So we cannot, but I think by and large, so far so good.
All right, we were talking about accountability and then vote buying. That's where we were about to get to before we got the report from Bayelsa State. Now, if you look at the punishment for this, vote buying, well, I can't get it readily now. We're going to get the penalty for vote buying in the course of this program. Now, if you take a look at this process, vote buying and then intimidation, all of these, what role can we say the electorates are playing to safeguard democracy?
Well, vote buying is a very serious issue, because most times when it's like bribing, it's like collection of bribe. You give me at times Maggi and even salt. Vote buying is not even physical cash alone.
Any form of inducement.
Inducement, yes. Any form of inducement could become vote buying. Most times, okay, if you vote for me, this is 10 bags of salt. After the voting, you people will go and share it. Some people sell their vote for 1 cup of salt, which is very, very insulting and annoying. I'm not saying that when you go to campaign rallies, politicians cannot distribute umbrellas or pin-ups or those campaign materials, fine. But when you now begin on election day or prior to voting, you begin to say, okay, this is 100,000 for youths, this is 100,000 for women, this is 100,000. So after the election, if you vote for my candidate A, you go and share this money. Then you have induced them. And then the voting procedure is open. They will have to know whether those people that collected the money actually voted or they didn't vote. So the secrecy of the ballot now becomes very questionable. And you discover that agents will be there. Either the parties don't train their agents very well, they tolerate all kinds of things that happen in the polling booth. Ideally, if you bring money out at the polling booth, you are supposed to be arrested for vote buying. Or you are giving money for voters to induce them to come and vote, you are supposed to be arrested and taken to court. But unfortunately, these things keep on happening. These things keep on happening, which is not good for our democracy.
They keep happening, like you said. Now, Honorable Gloria, from 2019 general election that happened in February and then March, we had cases of vote buying. And obviously, we didn't hear of any arrests as to regard of vote buying and any penalty served to any body or someone who was actually committed that offense. How are we going to have any deterrence for other people not to get involved in this vote buying? Talking about the doer now and the receiver.
I think that most of the electoral crimes, all the crimes related to the electoral process, we have had consistent complaints about, us being able to see, credible prosecution of defaulters and see that people paid the price, for subverting the system. If we don't see people pay the price for subverting the system, there's no deterrence. So it's very important. And I think that falls at the doorstep of INEC. There must be credible prosecution of people who violate the law. They must be able to answer. But it goes back to the fact to all the parties, because most people, like we all know, who go out there to perpetrate one crime or the other, have some backing somewhere. It is based on this backing that makes them bold enough to go and perpetrate these crimes. And so we want to be able to see that electoral, not just vote buying. But if there was no deterrence, I think that these two elections, for instance, we haven't heard so much about vote buying so far from the reports on the field. We haven't seen so much reports about vote buying. So it still boils down to the fact that we say we must begin to measure the progress we are making and begin to, out there we say, look, an election must be free, seen to be free and fair. We cannot expect that we are going to have the entire system cleaned out completely within a very short period. But we must be able to have deliverables, time measurable, measurable things by which we can judge and say, are we making progress or are we retrogressing? So that's what is very important. It's
quite important. And
yes.
We'll allow Dr. Omole to come in to this. From 2019 general elections and now, what are the signs of progress you've seen in these Bayelsa and Kogi elections?
Yes, well, I've seen progress in terms of the enthusiasm on the part of the people of Kogi and Bayelsa. Enthusiasm in the sense that from the rallies, from the commentaries, from the interests that the elections have generated, the issues that have emanated from the elections, the debates that have come out of the elections, there's a lot of improvement. And I think in the history of both Bayelsa and Kogi State, they are going to have a very high voter turnout. Prediction. It's predicted because of the cutthroat, the competition. It's very competitive. This particular election in the two states is very, very competitive between the leading political parties, even from the primaries leading to these elections. And then to come and add the Kogi West senatorial election that is happening in Kogi State. Of course, you know the Kogi West election is principally between two key personalities, former Senators Smart Adeyemi and Dino Melai.
We're going to come to talk about that Kogi West elections.
Yeah. So the Kogi West election for the Kogi State, the Kogi West election is very, very also key that it will have an impact in the gubernatorial election, because the gladiators in the Kogi West, it depends on who takes the day there. It will have a multiplier effect on the governorship election. Any party that becomes victorious in Kogi West will definitely have a ripple effect on the entire outcome.
Do you think that will actually be the case? Because in just February and March, we had a case whereby the president won a particular state and then the governor was out. The party did not win governorship election in that state. Do you think this will have a role to play for these candidates?
Yes, ideally, if the senatorial election was not holding, probably it would have been, the election would have been more, it would have been easier in Kogi West for any of the parties. But now that the senatorial election is involved, the stake in Kogi West is upped because of that development. And I know the two candidates, leading candidates, they dragged to the to the appeal court, and then the appeal court ordered a rerun.
Yes.
So the stakes will be really, really very high. And it would have been easier for the two governorship candidates if the senatorial election was not happening. Now the result of the senatorial election will definitely have a ripple effect on the main governorship election.
Okay, without any disrespect to other candidates, like you said, we have two major contenders in that state. But we can really say two. We have the likes of Aisha Audu, who is one of the widows of late Audu in Kogi State.
Yes.
From YPP. We have Natasha, we have Musa Wada, as well as the incumbent governor.
Yes.
Okay, how do you see this pan out in Kogi State?
That's to me. First, as a woman, I would salute the courage of the women. You know, we can see them fighting.
By the way, we have two women,
two front,
women contesting
very strong candidates.
SDP candidate.
Yes, so we salute their courage. It's a very tough thing out there, and generally in the political system, we all agree that we don't have enough representation of women. That's something and that's because it's very difficult out there. The system, to break into the system as a woman is quite difficult. That's a difficulty that is historical. It didn't begin from this regime. It is a systemic thing, whether we like it or not. It's our reality. But it's a reality that we must work towards breaking, because even the men today that are in power, maybe it's their daughters tomorrow that will benefit from the fact that we challenge the patriarchal systems that make it difficult for a woman to be able to run an effective campaign and come out. Having said that, I salute their courage and all that. But I want to state certain realities. He said two candidates.
Two major
candidates in this country right now. When we talk about politics, despite all the parties that we have, even in the media, everywhere, all you hear are the two major candidates, the two major parties. And if you look at what happened during the last general elections, the parties that are not the two major parties more than anything else, have their system to blame for the weak position of their candidates. So the state, the Nigerian state right now has done quite a bit to ensure that there's a bit of opportunity, the space is opened up. But right now, after the general elections, we found people beginning to call for the scrapping of the other parties. And that's unfortunate, because I think that what happened during the general elections was a squandering of all of the efforts that people put in to open up the space so that you have more candidature and more people. We found people within the political party system collapsing every effort that had been made to open up this space and making it look insignificant or useless. And that's why I still keep coming back to the people. There's a saying that the people get the leadership they deserve. We must work on the citizens. We must work on citizen participation and the citizens realizing that the stakes are high. They are as high for me as they are for the politician.
All right, you called it opening up of the space for politicians. Now, in that case, let me take you back. During the general elections, we had 91 political parties, and 73 of them came out for the presidential seats. Now, Honorable Gloria is saying that was an opportunity to open up the space. It's a number of the candidates involved in a contest that matters, or the results, Dr. Omole?
Yes, multi-party democracy is a very good innovation. The more the merrier.
In this case, whereby we have some candidates having as low as 2 votes.
Yes, it doesn't matter. It's not about winning. It's about creating opportunities and options. Who say that YPP cannot be president of Nigeria? Who say that a party such as even Action Democratic Party cannot win the presidency of Nigeria? No, it's over time. The small party you see today can grow to become the big party of tomorrow. So, multipartyism is good for a democracy. Tomorrow, any group of people can come together and form their own political party. That does not take whatever agenda they want to promote. That does not diminish whatever agenda they want to promote.
Okay.
Maybe in future, Nigerians will begin to understand where they are going and rally around them, and they could win an election. But we are saying that for now, there are 2 major political parties. That does not mean that because there are 2 major political parties, other parties will not exist. They will exist. They can contest councillorship elections, they can contest local government elections, they can contest even House of Assembly, State Assembly elections, they can contest other elections. They might not be able to have a national spread, but they are there. We have the Green Party in the US. They are there, environmentalists and environmental party and all kinds of party. They are there, but they are there with specific agenda, and they control very small region or area. In Nigeria, we should begin to think about that too, so that our parliament or our National Assembly or State Assembly will have varieties. I see no reason why, as a woman activist, for example, they can have a party that is pursuing women empowerment as their agenda, and through that they can champion women empowerment. I am happy that 2 governorship candidates are women in Kogi State.
Yeah.
I want to, like I said, it's not easy, especially to contest election in this part of the world.
All right, obviously 2 of you are in support of multi-party system. I am not against that either. But when you look at the effect it's going to have on the logistics of the electoral body, taking 2019 general elections, for example, we had a case whereby we have like triple of these as a ballot paper.
It hasn't worked for us.
Yes, but
it hasn't worked for us.
But if there were
we need to
electronic
revisit
voting,
it
doesn't really matter. But for the sake of balloting, I think that for a presidential election, there should be criteria to say that parties that can make ballots for a presidential election should at least have 1 or 2 members in the State Assembly of the Federation. There should be laws so that the parties must not necessarily be proscribed. The parties will exist, but for it to be on the ballot for a particular election, there must be some minimum criteria. That is what I am proposing. Right. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So that if there's presidential election, for example, in 2023, any political party that doesn't have up to 2 or 3 members in the entire state assemblies of the country will not be on the presidential ballot. With that, you can streamline those that will go. But in state elections, you might allow all parties. All right. Do you understand what I'm saying? In local government election, you might allow all parties.
My advice will be that we'll be taking bills to the National Assembly to this effect. My advice will be that beyond the number of candidates you could have in the State Assembly, because you could have a couple of strong candidates who don't have the opportunity of picking up a ticket in any of the main parties.
Major parties, yes.
They do all of the work and they are able to secure their local government because of their personal popularity. And they get to the State Assembly. It is not enough a test for the survival of a political party. I think we must look into the structure of the political parties, the chairmen, the structure of the political parties. We must be more serious about looking at the structure, the character, and the ideologies of these political parties to determine whether they are serious about the electoral process or not. Or if they want to do business, they should go and be businessmen. No. If they want to be politicians, madam. We should look into the structure, because that is where we have the problem. We must be able to
but there are rules already that you must have offices in all the states of the Federation.
That is what I'm saying. I'm saying that we must look critically at how they have been able to perform. Where are those offices? It's very easy for us to name places that don't exist.
Exactly.
Yes.
My point.
We can name places and offices that don't exist, or we are sponsored by people. You know, we are sponsored by the 2 main parties, and we just sit down and we exist on paper. If we want to grow, we must make sure that we streamline the political parties to the ones that the party has a physical structure that is on ground, that is serious in participating in politics. Then we can prune it down. A lot of people get to their seats by their personality. That's enough. That's not enough yardstick. We must look at the political structure before we revalidate them. There must be some form of revalidation process for the multi-parties.
I agree with what she's saying. You see, ordinarily, before political party is registered, there are certain guidelines. You must have spread. You must have your executives from ward to national level. I believe, except if what she is saying is that INEC is not doing enough monitoring, or probably for the purpose of registration, they will set up these offices and maybe they fizzle out. But I agree that most of these parties are really not on ground, because from where I come from, there are 2 basic parties that is on ground in my place: APC and PDP. The other parties, I don't know whether they are existing. Sometimes you hear of SDP.
Exactly the point. So when you trace the address of some parties, you can only trace it to one flat and one self-contained. So should
you don't hear about that.
So should we allow all of this to continue to compound the process, to compound the challenges for the electoral body?
But again, I think Chief Gani Fahimi won this case in the Supreme Court, which has the Supreme Court is the highest court of the land, where political parties are allowed. INEC is allowed to register any party that meets the criteria that is set aside. INEC actually does not even have an option whether to allow the party to exist or not, because once you meet the minimum criteria, you are supposed to be registered. I think that has been tested by the law court, and it is a settled matter. What I think is that in the further amendment to the Electoral Act. They can now, for the purpose of balloting, they can now put to response, say, look, the ballot paper is too big and is too unwieldy. And even for an illiterate voter, I remember in the last election, you give somebody the ballot paper, and then trace the logo of the party is going to vote for.
An exercise.
It's an exercise. So the voting process must be user-friendly. It must be user-friendly. Because when you take the ballot paper and you are still scanning, even me with my level of education, I have to look critically to search for the party that...
To place it right.
Yes, I want to vote. And most times the logo are not too legible. So some people might want to vote for a particular political party, and they are not seeing the logo in the way that it should be. So it becomes very confusing. And some of the logos are actually almost the same thing.
Yeah, like.
No. We're just talking about the roles that the political parties are playing in sanitizing this system. Now, apart from having this number of political parties, for example, in Kogi State, 24 parties, like we said, participating, what other role can these parties play to ensure that they make it seamless for the electoral body?
The issue of alliances. I want us to look critically at the parties can come together. If opposition parties can all come together, form a strong alliance to challenge an incumbent ruling party, it is possible. But I don't know something seems to be wrong. Even in the First Republic, you know, there was a grand alliance of NCNC has to enter into an alliance with the other political party of that era. In the Second Republic, there was the MPN alliance and other alliances that political parties could enter. But I'm not seeing that in this